Echo Station 5-7. We're on our way. Alright, boys, keep tight now.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm building a Bandai 148 Snowspeeder, and just taking a break between bigger builds and building this little Bandai kit for fun. I'm gonna customize the hell out of this thing, and I'm gonna put lights in it and custom base and beat it up, make it look like something out of the Empire Strikes Back, hopefully. So let's get cracking. I got started on this little Snowspeeder, and turns out there's a ton of room in this thing to light it. Relatively, I built the Boba Fett Slave 1, and that thing had no room in it, but I managed to stuff lights in that. So what I'm doing is looking at the cockpit, which is really the only place that there's lights. And it looks like there's staggered a lot of red and white lights along the sides here, and the back gunner area and the dashboard for the front. So the cool thing about these Bandai kits is they're snap together. You don't need to put any glue in them, so you can dry fit parts as long as you don't, really press them together and pull them back apart. So that way you can figure out where do I need to run the wiring and LEDs inside the body. And this thing has like a whole channel in here. So I ripped out these two posts. This thing has a lot of ways to snap together. There's a lot of different posts. It's not really going to hurt anything. Worst case, I'll glue the inside to pull this down if there's an issue, but that gets me a lot of room. So I can put one LED here and one LED here, and then run all the fiber from those two LEDs into this whole cockpit area, which is the only place that I need to put lighting. And then I could run wires through, there's like a channel here, and there's always a hole in the bottom of these kits for the base, which is a little post, and you could find replacement metal posts in a lot of different places. I bought like a whole bag full of assorted tubing. So I found one piece to put in there, which is just like a stub piece kind of to run the wires through, and then I have this other piece that will fit over and hold the ship. And I can run all my wires through there. So I won't be able to take the ship off the post, but it's okay. It'll be permanently mounted and wired. So that's my plan for that. Similar to what I did with some A-wings. I did the same exact thing as that. And these little interior pieces are very accurate when you compare them to the real ship. I took a bunch of screenshots of the inside of the cockpit, and they're really accurate. So I took a really small bit, and I'm manually drilling the holes, because if I use any kind of power tool, it's gonna mess things up. And I put a whole bunch of holes. There's a row of like red switches across here, which is you're not going to be able to see this. I'll try and zoom in, but there's a row of red switches here which I drilled out. And the center of this gun, I'm going to actually put an SMD in back of this to light that, and then I'll maybe white light in there so the gunner has like a little screen. And I'm going to put, I haven't decided if I'm going to put a red LED to power all of the fiber, or white, and then, because most of the lighting is red and white. In fact, I think it's all red and white. So I'm not sure which light I'm going to use to power. I'm going to have one blinking, so I'm going to have two LEDs in here. One is going to be steady on, and one's going to be blinking. And I have a blinking LED, so I'm not going to need to power it with any kind of board or anything to blink. And so I'll have the option of steady or blinking, and then depending on which light I want to blink, I'll run the fiber to it. These pieces in here, they're like little walls that go in and pop out, and when you put them in, this is actually rare for Bandai, but when you put these in, there's a gap here, which is normally you don't see that, but that's going to have to be fixed. Normally these things fit together and you can't see any seams in them most of the time. But it's a cool little kit. There's not much to it. So I'm spending a lot of time on the cockpit because that's the only part that's going to have lighting, and it's going to have the two pilots. So that's going to be kind of your focal point of the ship. So once the cockpit is once I figure out the final lighting scheme for this, I'm going to work on the pilots. And I'm going to spend a lot of time on the pilots because I want them to look really good. And the rest of it, once these two pieces are together and all the wiring is done, then the rest of it's just like sticking parts on it and figuring out the detailing, which is going to be the really fun part. Because these are really beat up, these ships. I guess they were kind of slapped together or whatever. So I'm going to finish up. I have to paint the cockpit and the seats and the dash and everything else, and then drill my holes, run my fiber, and see where it goes from there. So I'll come back when I have some interior work done and when I should have the pilots detailed, because I haven't started those yet. So I'll come back when I have some work on the pilots. So here's what I got going on. So the cockpit came up pretty nice. It's all lit up. Got a whole bunch of lights in there. There actually are some blinking lights. Not really that obvious. I mean, they're there. I used really small fiber optic for this. I used a 0.25 millimeter. Probably see one blinking light. I didn't want the whole thing blinking, so there's more in the front. Let's see if I can get the front. And there's a couple here and there that are blinking. And the screen for the gun is a SMD turned backwards. So it's a regular SMD. I think it's a 0805. I think it's really small, but it's turned around, and I drilled a hole in this screen and I put the SMD faced into that hole. So you're getting like a glow. I looked on the movie, there's like a little screen there. It's red, so I used a clear red paint to paint over that. And you can see some fiber optics down there, but that's alright because the pilot's going to go in, you won't see him. Or the gunner, sorry. The gunner's going to cover all that up. Might be, you know, a little too many lights, but it's alright. So all I have to do now is paint the pilots, and I can put them in anytime now. So I can do the whole rest of the model and not put the pilots in until I feel like it, which is good because I can't match that orange jumpsuit color, and I'm trying to figure out if I can mix something. I'm getting orange, but I'm not getting the orange that I want. So I'm trying to mix something, but I think I'm going to have to order some dark orange paint I have to look it up and see what exact color it is, because I don't know, and it's not going to look right if they're not orange the way that they should look. So that might have to wait. That's all right. I'm putting the rest of the parts on. So I sprayed the interior of the walls with dark gray. That's why there's some overspray here. I didn't want anything showing that was going to be light gray, so it's pretty beat up on the outside from the work that I've been doing, stuffing the LEDs in there. But that's alright. I mean, this thing's supposed to be really beat up, so that's the great thing about these kits. You can, especially the Star Wars ones, because they're always beat up, so you can have some accidents happen that actually add character to the ship, and you don't need to do like an Admiral's build where it's meticulous and, you know, everything's neat and tidy, and all the paint colors are right, and everything, decals are on all the spots. I mean, that's not the way these ships look. Each one is different. They're slapped together, and the more that you do that, I think the more authentic the ships look. So I'm gonna kind of take some liberties with this thing. So I put a little brass tube in here. I think I mentioned that before. So the wires are coming out. I was able to fit everything in here, and there's 2 LEDs in there and an SMD for the gun, so 3 lights inside, and I had to cram everything in there. There wasn't as much room as I thought. I don't think I've ever put together one of these Bandai kits out of the box. So I've always customized them, so there's always stuff that might not fit. It might not look perfect. From what I'm told, they go together perfect if you don't light them. So I did come up with a base for this thing, which is it's like a snow base that's in its early stages, and all it is a piece of scrap wood I had around. There's some rocks I got in the yard, and they're different sizes that are glued down. And this is actually a piece of styrofoam that I cut jagged pieces in, so it's a sort of the edge of a mountain, because this thing's going to be flying, I guess, over the Hoth landscape. So I wanted to have something that looked sort of like the tip of a mountain, and I might have the ship on a little bit of an angle, I'm not sure. And I have to paint some rocks, and because I think if I remember this, the surface of Hoth was like mountainous, and there were rocks exposed, so I'm going to paint some browns and some grays in here so the rocks aren't completely covered. And I have to figure out what I'm going to use for actual snow, because this is just white paint right now. But I got some really good effects with that styrofoam, which kind of looks like snow drifts after I painted it with white primer. So this is just white primer on here. I just kind of went to town on it. I used the old I had a can of primer that I got at the hardware store, and I just sprayed it on real heavily so that styrofoam sucked it all up. And so this is like the main coat of snow, and then I'm going to put something on here that looks like real snow. So this is just to hide the undercoat of wood and rock. So it should look pretty cool. Be flying over that. It'll look better than the little base they give you, which is just like a little sand, supposedly snow, but snowdrift kind of thing. I mean, this is kind of cool, I guess, but it's a little small, and it's I don't like this big arm protruding, and it's like everybody else's that bought the kit, right? So this one's kind of stands out. So I'm going to slowly start tacking parts on this, and then I'm going to mask off the cockpit area, and then I can work on the whole outside of the ship and finish the outside detail, and then put some decals on it, and then start weathering it and beating it up. And during that course of time, I'll work on the pilots. I want the pilots to look really good, so I'm gonna wait and get the right color orange, and then I'm going to make sure that I detail them with a lot of stuff on their helmets and things, so they look realistic. So I'll come back when I have more progress done of the tiny Snowspeeder.